guys, welcome to our masterclass. Today's masterclass is Fear-Free 4th of July for your puppy. And I am Yoar Medeiros, and I have Corey in backstage. I'll present her in just a second. As you can tell, I am working from the facility. I don't know if you guys can hear the dogs barking, but I most certainly can. But I wanted to welcome you guys to this masterclass. It's designed to help these new puppies. So pet parents are just having, like, they haven't even celebrated their first 4th of July. I wanted to kind of go over everything to do with 4th of July, not just fireworks, but a little bit more specifically in our city of Huntington Beach, where fireworks are legal. And it is like the city to go to when it comes to 4th of July. So let me go ahead and bring up Corey. There you are.
Hello.
Hey. All right. So this workshop, I asked you to just come and help me out, help me with some of the science behind it. You've also got a different outlook on fireworks and 4th of July, working in the animal industry yourself. So tell us a little bit, Corey, about what it's like working with other species besides dogs when it comes to 4th of July.
Yeah, so I'm a former zookeeper. I worked in an exotic animal industry for 15 years or so. And our facility was located near our downtown, which always put on a pretty significant fireworks show. And a lot of the things that we're going to be talking about today are things that we did to prepare many of our animals. Those animals that would usually have access to their overnight enclosure would be brought inside for the evening. We would give them lots of extra comfort and things like that. But it was always notable the next day, and even for a couple of days after, that some animals had behavior changes as a result of experiencing all of that loud sound, all of the booms and everything. So it was as a caretaker, it was always kind of a struggle to get them through. It was essentially a week. Everybody's partying way ahead and way after anyway, so it's a week of adventure.
So it feels like a month here. They're already lighting off fireworks. And those of you guys that are watching live, if you are watching live on our YouTube channel, you'll see that you can see the live, but in the comment section, if you do want to ask a question as they come up, you can put a comment there and we can actually see the comments and be able to answer you live. If you're watching the recording, no problem. You can just watch the recording a little later and still comment, and I'll come back in and just take a look. We also have an ebook to give you that was really popular the last couple of years. I think we have over 1.4 thousand, I want to say, copies that were sent out that just kind of gives you all of this information in a ebook kind of format. So let me make sure that is all right. I think we're ready to go. So let me go ahead and pull our presentation up here. All right, so I think we got the time and the date right. June 11th at 1 o'clock. Are we good? Is that where we're at? This is PST.
That's today. Yep.
Okay. So this is all about young puppies. However, if you have an older dog, you can definitely take some parts from this. And I will have a number that you can call if you want to ask some questions about specifics. So we have Casey in the house watching live. So if you're watching live, it looks like that when you ask a questions. And this is a masterclass that has a private, no, actually this is a public link. So you can send it to friends and family way beyond after we get done recording this. All right, let's get this party started. So here are your two presenters today. So I am Yoar Medeiros on the left. I look really good in this picture, but
you look great.
After 4 or 5 days of sleeping at the facility, I'm a little hot mess. But and Corey, I think you talked a little bit about your background. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
After working in the zoo industry, I did then go out and get my CPD TKA. So I'm a certified professional dog trainer, and I've worked exclusively with dogs for the past 6 or 7 years. but it has been very enlightening working with dogs after having worked with exotic animals and kind of knowing what you can do with so many different types of learners and bringing some of that into a focus in one species. It's been pretty fun.
What I like about Corey, she's a little bit of a nerd in a good way, like,
yes.
So when I asked her to geek out for me, she was like, yes. So you are going to get some information. And the reason why we want to basically give you the science behind a lot of this stuff is because I really want you on board when it comes to understanding what you can do to help prepare for this holiday. And as fun as this holiday is for humans, it's not so fun for dogs a lot of times. All right. Let me go ahead and just get in. I'm going to have you go and facilitate the background. So if I miss anything, just pop yourself back up. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to go over these main topics. We've got understanding fear. We're going to go into essential preparation. We are going to talk to you a little bit about desensitizing, how to do it and how to do it properly. Some strategy for the 4th of July, providing comfort, getting some support, and then just to understand like what you need to do just in case of emergency when things aren't working out the way that you had planned. And then for additional support and resources, we'll go over like what else you can do to just kind of help with making sure that this is the easiest and most positive experience for your brand new puppy. All right. So let's just talk a little bit about why the 4th of July is hard. And I'm going to talk specifically about Huntington Beach. And then Corey, I'll have you pop up here in a second and just talk a little bit about why it's hard in maybe your town or in the zoo. Okay. So why it can be hard for us at Huntington Beach. You think about like everything that we do in the city. So we've got like the parade. It starts off with the parade. You've got people wanting to do the barbecue. You've got people driving hundreds of miles just to come to Huntington Beach because it's where a lot of the festivities are. And when we have a lot of festivities here, there's like there's crowds, right? There's a lot more people. There's a lot more just things going on. And the dogs are kind of like off their schedule. So if you imagine you get a young puppy and they're about 5 or 6 months old, they're already, trying to get into their adolescent stage. They're going through their own problems. And now you've got like all of a sudden mom's in the kitchen cooking, like, and then there's like hot dogs and hamburgers and all this barbecue stuff. And you've got this puppy going like, there is something going on in here. And then you've got the overwhelm of, the family going, oh gosh, we're going to have people over. So there's lots of changes besides fireworks like that in itself. You already know that that's scary, but just the preparedness of the 4th of July. So in Huntington Beach, there's so many more cars. There's people. Then we've got a race early in the morning. And I love the festivities, but working with dogs more and more and seeing the consequence of not doing it right, or just a puppy that, a dog that grew up with just already fear, and then us not really taking it seriously. We see the other end of it. Working in the animal industry, we see what happens when we don't take things slow. We see what happens to these dogs when they're really scared and there's no one nurturing them or giving them a little bit of support, and they're kind of like left on their own. Huntington Beach, again, is a little bit different than other cities because the fireworks are legal. And so there's fireworks here and the smell of fireworks. So you've got crowds. You've got the race that's going on and all the streets are blocked off. You've got the massive parade that goes on every single year, and it's fun. But a lot of our pet parents are wanting to enjoy the fun. And then we're kind of like forgetting, oh yeah, we've got a young puppy that we need to nurture and go a little bit slow with all of these things. And I did this to Bentley. I did this to him as well. I was like, oh, this is cool. Right when he was young, I think he was like 5 months. I brought him over to the 4th of July Huntington Beach parade. I think I raced that morning, if I can remember. And I didn't think anything of it, of all the crowds and going through there. I was like, oh, he's doing really well. And he was doing well, but he wasn't, I would say, happy about it. It's definitely not like this happy face going. It was more of like, can I find you? You still here with me? So there was definitely some panicking going on. If I can remember, it's like 10 years ago. And if I had to do it again, I would have never exposed him to that many people. And like going from structured training and exposure and socialization and his schedule to, hey, there's a little bit of chaos. Like, it's not even controlled chaos. It's like, people with weird things on, and so I just want you to kind of think about it. It's a party town. It's a party. People are excited and loud. And that might not be, I mean, it's really not. It's not the right atmosphere for a young puppy for them to have a great experience. Like, it's a lot. So if we could dial it back, if we can go at a distance, perhaps. But I just want you to kind of think about, like, it's a lot going on for a little puppy. Let me have a Corey hop on here. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, most of what you said, I would say where I live, I'm from Toledo, Ohio, and there aren't a lot of people necessarily flocking to Toledo for our festivities, but we are on the Maumee River and we are near the Maumee Bay of Lake Erie. So you do have people coming into town for, I suppose, just summer travels, and then that particular week happens to be busier because people have the time off. So we do see an influx of travel, and for those people that are like on the river, as the zoo is as well, there's a lot of the boating sounds and things that you don't usually hear.
That's true.
Now, one of the things that does make it a little easier for the zoo animals is that they are heavily exposed to crowds, loud noises, children. I mean, there's people, however, that weekend happens to be one of the highest rates of attendance for the zoo. So it's still, that activity still, packs it up, the caregivers, we get anxious because of how much is going on and how much is expected to get done. And then, then you also have the care of the animals to think about. And that can resonate with the animals too, the way that we get anxious. And I think we're going to talk about that too. But that it just changes the perception and the aspect of things for them.
I think, listening to what you said triggered, the fact that, yeah, you're right, are the pet parents, the humans that are around these young puppies, also their emotional state is disturbed. Whether it's like, oh my God, what am I going to wear to, oh my God, this person is going to be here today. Yep. And, Casey just mentioned here, you want to read that comment real quick?
Yeah, it is not always fun for humans either. Veterans and those with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, fireworks can trigger a lot of anxiety and stress. And it's very true. Very true.
Not to mention, the veterans and stuff like that. And I'm not saying, I'm not an advocate for like, let's just, ditch 4th of July. Just like saying, like,
be aware.
Let's be aware. All right. Let's go ahead and switch this slide. Thank you. So we're going to go into understanding fears. And this is what Corey's going to talk a little bit about, and a little bit about like understanding why puppies can be afraid. So some puppies are naturally fearful. I find that, for whatever reason, when we're doing like a temperament test, or I'm meeting a puppy for the very first time, or I'm just sharing, someone's sharing video with me with the entire litter. I'm going to actually pop you up here in case you have any comments. You can see in a litter of puppies which one's just a little more shy. I call it shy. But then we can also see that one puppy that's operating from some heavy fear state, like whether it's for whatever reason. So one of the reasons that I have here is just acute hearing. So they've got really, really, really good hearing. Their sense of smell, their sense of their hearing is unlike any of us. So go ahead and just tell us a little bit about that, Corey.
So obviously they're picking up sounds that we may not necessarily hear, or that we do hear, but it doesn't bother us because it's not quite so loud. And so we can sometimes forget that, well, it didn't sound like it was that loud, but really for our puppy or our dog, it was that loud. And so taking a look at their reactions when you do hear something and say, okay, how did they do with that? You can kind of get a measure of how comfortable they are with sounds at any volume, because they do experience it much differently than we do.
And they hear things like loud noises that, I mean, like the real sudden loud noises versus the high pitched sound. Like we don't really dissect sound the way that we would if we're working with a young puppy and we're noticing that they're operating all the time from a state of fear. That is one of the things we look out besides any kind of injury and stuff like that. It's like, okay, maybe they're really hearing sensitive. They're hearing that plane and it sounds different to them. So fireworks are loud noises that are coming from nowhere. They can't see it. So that boom, or when someone drops a pot in the kitchen, it's not something they're going to hear all the time. So they're not going to be able to get immune to it really quickly. It's something that they have to like go, okay, that was an all of a sudden noise. I can get used to having all of a sudden loud noises, but not necessarily that noise, right? Which is why like thunderstorms can be really scary for a young puppy. High-pitched sounds also can be startling for a puppy. I was walking in the neighborhood and I swear I was walking with a group, I think 4 pups. They're not puppies, but they're all dogs of all ages. And I was like, why are they avoiding this one person's lawn? Or do you notice that in your neighborhood at all?
Not often in my neighborhood, but it does make sense when you say that they would pick up on things. I'll have to watch closer, the way they behave around certain places.
Well, I was like, why is it that this one house, every time I go near there, they all want to walk in the street and go around? Well, I like turned my hearing on to like another level. And I was like, oh, they've got one of those those high pitched frequency sounds that happen anytime you walk on their lawn.
Oh, like a deterrent?
Yeah. And
Oh,
it took me a minute to actually hear it. And I was like, well, that explains why the dogs have put that together so quickly. It only took a few repetitions of walking near that person's lawn. So, but it's not something that I could hear if I wasn't really, really trying
right.
to listen for it. All right, let me go ahead and slide this over. Another reason why puppies can naturally be fearful is just from having a negative association or experience. So, for example, um, let's just say that like I said, like you're in the kitchen, your young puppy is just sitting there, relaxing, maybe even half asleep, and you drop something really loud. And at that moment, the puppy wakes up and sees a 5-year-old sitting there watching TV or something like that. They might think that this 5-year-old was the reason why this, loud noise happened. And it could end up giving them a negative association with that 5-year-old. We see it all the time, right? We see it with barking and things like that. So negative experiences and associations can cause a dog to be fearful of whatever it is that they put that noise onto. And that's, that's really, it's up to the dog to figure out what that has been paired with. We can get the information from a pet parent when they tell us, but it really is like what we were trying to dissect. Where did that noise come from? And where was the dog looking at? Or what were they doing at that exact moment? Okay, well, that might be the trigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We have a response here from...
There are noiseless fireworks that have been developed, but they haven't been embraced in Huntington Beach. Fireworks are also devastating to wild bird populations. Yeah, and in wildlife in general, it's kind of something we're going to talk about a little bit later on, is that it's a disruption of the entire area, the entire community, wildlife included.
Yeah, so I think in Long Beach, they had last year, it was sponsored by a big dog product company, and I don't know which of the two I was up, so I'm not going to say because I don't want to get it wrong. But last year they had a laser show and it was phenomenal. I didn't get a chance to be there live, but I watched some of the recordings. I'm like, that's pretty cool. It was still a great show, no noise, all just, lights. So,
Interesting.
yeah. All right. Another reason why puppies can actually be fearful is genetics and epigenetics. Do you have any comments on this, Corey?
Not specifically, other than, some dogs are kind of hard or are bred more specifically to handle loud noises. When we think about gun dogs and stuff like that. But your dogs that are bred more for companionship and things like that don't have that kind of, I don't know, genetic buffer, I suppose, that other dogs do.
Yeah. And specific certain breeds, right? So you've got some breeds that are going to be predisposed or positioned to naturally be more prone to be anxious or fearful. And like as you're working with lots of different dogs, you might see that, this dog is, I've seen this again, the same again. So whether it's coming from a line, the same line, or it's just specifically throughout a breed. And then examples of like other epigenetics is that the parents might experience something in the womb. So the mom is pregnant. She's got, these 5 or 6 puppies and she gets startled, right? So she can definitely pass that down to her puppies. And I've seen it. One of the dogs that we ended up rescuing, my mom ended up bringing home, and that's her dog, Romeo. We saw a lot of the same fear that came from the mom who was pregnant when we found her, that with him and his brother. They're all kind of like, they're afraid of new people, specifically new people. So who knows what the mom said to the puppies, but it was definitely half taught. So, all right, we'll move on to other reasons why is just lack of socialization. So sometimes when a puppy is in a state of fear or they operate with anxiety and just being a little nervous, we often think, okay, what did you do? But the reality sometimes is the puppy didn't get enough experiences to go check that off, going, well, okay, well, I feel safe now. I didn't get that experience. So now I'm going to be cautious of anything that's brand new. So they hear a noise that they haven't heard before and they're like, brakes on. Okay, I'm scared. So we see lack of socialization or experience, as well as negative association experience that can cause fear, natural fear in some of these young puppies. All right. If you have a question about fear with puppies, drop it in the comments. Again, we can pull your comments up as they come up. Okay, so let's just go into recognizing signs of anxiety and stress, because it's all great to say, well, I think my dog looks or I think my dog feels, but there's actually lots of ways to read your dog's body language to let you know that, hey, they're not quite so comfortable. And then knowing that information, once you know that information, it's really important that you actually do something about it. Right? Whether it's giving the dog space or providing a buffer or bringing them back inside. If you don't do anything, here's the thing. If you say that, you know what, I see you, I hear you, I know you're afraid, but I really want to go to this party anyways, and you're coming along. If that's going to be the way that you parent your puppy, what happens that we find later on is that the puppy learns to talk and defend for themselves. And that's where you get the barking and the lunging and the air bite. The bite is like, hey, I tried to tell you 5 seconds ago, you weren't listening. So let me do it myself, right? You see this quite a bit in behavior mod, right? When we kind of dissect through and go, well, where did this start? Okay. So we'll pop that back on here. So let's just go over some signs, Corey. Go ahead and get started, and then I'll kind of chime in.
So some of the more subtle signs of stress or anxiety, you find that your dog is perking their head up or tracking sounds with their ears, and it may not, it may not register with you right off the bat that they do it once or twice, but when it's like kind of continuous, so you see them, they're popping up and they don't seem to be able to relax. That's going to be a little bit more of a subtle sign. Barking once or twice and stopping and looking around for the source of the sound. Again, they're obviously hearing something. It is obviously bothersome because they are kind of addressing it. But then when you look at more severe signs, it's going to be more like barking nonstop. Immediately as the sound happens and then continuing to bark. And then you see some physical changes like trembling, hiding, or seeking excessive comfort. You've got those dogs that are clinging, trying to clamber up into your lap when they hear it. And then you can see other things too, like panting, whining, drooling, and you might even see digestive issues like diarrhea or vomiting when it gets to be pretty severe.
And even not eating, right? Like not taking food, hiding behind you. Those are all subtle signs as well. Or they could be severe depending on the dog. So if I had a lab here that always eats and all of a sudden he's not eating, I'm like, okay, there's something seriously wrong right now. So every dog, every animal is going to be a little different. So it's not like this is it. It's just, just understanding that could be a little bit different in each thing. We also want to take note of like when they bark once or twice, are they looking around at the same time? So like it's layered. So if they're doing multiple things, it might be actually severe, even though there's subtle signs, but there's a number of subtle signs, right? Okay. Anything else you want to add to that?
Oh, there was something that I just thought of. Oh, so not every dog is going to show all of these signs. Some dogs are only going to show, a couple of the signs among the gamut of stress signals that the dog could display. You have to understand and get really good at reading what is normal for your dog and then what is not normal and what those not normal signs look like for your dog. Because your dog might not display some of these things that another dog would. So knowing what is normal for your dog is important.
Okay. And if we're going to go into what you do, so subtle signs, I would basically see those subtle signs and go, okay, I'd like to know what I'm going to assess this situation. Is there anything I can do to help, or does it feel like it's going to escalate if I take one more step closer to whatever it is the trigger is? But severe signs, you definitely have to help. There's no question about it. If you don't provide your dog with help, it's not going to be pretty, and it's not good for them, right? So whether you're cleaning up diarrhea for a week, or this takes them months, or they're traumatized for life with whatever the sound is or whatever the experience is that's causing this. So if we go into assessing your puppy's response, we're like, how fast does it happen? So how, after they hear a noise or after they see a parade of crowd and all of that, we want to know how the dog responds and at what kind of time frame. What we'd like to also see is what the recovery time is. So how fast are they able to get back to doing what they were doing just before they heard the noise or seen the sight of whatever it is that's triggering them? And then, is it impacting their daily lives? So do you notice a change in an overreactive response on your next walk? You go out on a walk and you notice that your dog is wanting to bolt back home. And you're like, no, we have to go out. It's time to go out. So we just want to kind of look through all of that at the same time and know that it could go, at any time, it could be a little different than what you predicted. Anything else you want to add to that, Corey?
No, not here, I don't think. But I think recovery time, that's something that I've always talked at length with clients when we talk, when we're looking at counter conditioning and behavior modification, is that I think sometimes owners will only look at, the frequency of the behavior, or that they are, continuing with the behavior, whether it's barking or lunging or anything like that. And I said, well, you're still going to see that for, a period of time, but how quickly does it resolve? That's going to be more of an indication of your measure of progress in training is that they are able to recover more quickly, because it is normal to have a fearful reaction or to startle at something. We do it, and some of us startle more easily than others, but how quickly do you recover and then resume normalcy is the most key factor.
So these are the three main questions we would ask you if we were working together and you were describing what your dog was doing or puppy was doing according to their response to a trigger. We'll say, well, how immediate was the reaction and how long did it last and what did it look like? Did they bark once? Did they bark twice? Did they bark and spin? Did they pull on the leash? Did they try to? So we find out what that is. The next thing we ask is how long did this last and how fast were they able to go back to doing whatever they were doing before? And then what does it look like 2-3 days later? Are they avoiding this certain area? Are they now encountering loud noises and ducking or hiding behind you? Has it impacted everything else that was supposedly normal? So if you are answering these questions and starting to think, well, yeah, actually, my dog is still traumatized by that neighbor who threw out a whatever, just make note of it. And we're going to help you go through how to help make your dog less or help your dog be less sensitive to some of at least the noises. And this also applies to sight and smell and all of that stuff. All right, moving on. So common loud noises, you've got different types of noises, and we put them into kind of 4 categories. You've got the social noises that are outside of the house. These are usually sounds of people passing and dogs, and then your dog reacts to it, right? Or your puppy might react to, they hear a dog at a distance or an airplane go by, kids playing, or even the dump truck. Those are things outside that your dog has heard, and it becomes the trigger for whatever reason. Then we have the sudden noises. So these noises happen when the dog least expects it, like they can't see it, but all of a sudden it's happening. So that's like your fireworks, your thunderstorms, they can't see it all of a sudden. And that's really scary for them. But could you imagine, Corey, not knowing what the noise was coming from, and all of a sudden you've got even we hear fireworks all the time, and of course I know what a firework is. But if I didn't know what a firework was and I heard that noise for the very first time, I would think that my house was getting robbed or something.
Oh, absolutely. A jet flies over, a helicopter goes by, or something like that you don't normally hear. Or even if you took those fireworks and shot them off in December, you'd be like, what is happening? It would, even if it's a familiar sound, but out of context, it's still gonna startle us and make us think again about what's going on.
Other loud noises that your dog might interact with is the noises that are coming from inside the house. So you've got the vacuum cleaner, which is a big one for a lot of young puppies, but you've also got the blender. You've got sometimes I don't have one of those, but like the garbage disposal, I guess. And I do have a garbage disposal, but that's not what I was going to say. But those heaters that kick on and then the whole house rumbles, I used to have
like the radiators.
Yeah. So if you're not paying attention and all of a sudden your dog hears a noise and you look over and your dog's drooling or hiding and all of that stuff, we can't just say, okay, my dog does it for no reason. There's got to be a reason. It's just hard for us to find that reason because they hear so much better than we do. And then while out and about, those are some of the scariest noises for dogs, is when they're out there happy-go-lucky, having a good time, and all of a sudden they hear a door slam or just something that they're not familiar with, cars, those motorcycle kickbacks and things like that. Mm-hmm. That's just loud noises that dogs can be scared of. So we're going to teach you some games that we play here with some of the school dogs to help with sudden noises, mainly if you're out and about, but you can also do this inside the home. Before we do that, let's go into what does stress look like and what does it do to them. So I'll let you take this one on, Corey. So what does stress look like in puppies?
So as you can see across these photos that we have here, we're focusing in on some of the body language that dogs will display when they're stressed. It's the stress signals. The ears are a factor. You have some dogs, knowing what your dog's natural ear position is important. I have dogs that have very erect ears, but they are still very expressive, and I know, being their owner, what their different ear positions mean. But when you see like the dog on the bottom row, that first bottom row, those ears are straight back. That's a good indicator of stress. The barking, looking at a couple of these dogs with their eyes wide open, you can see the whites of their eyes. You don't naturally see that when the dog is comfortable. And the mouth position too, very closed, body's lowered. So these are all signs that your dog could display just by using their body and not making a sound. That's what stress will look like.
Yeah. Let's go through some other ones. We've got ears. We've got the low body right there. You've got a dog hiding in the corner. You've got vocalization, so the barking and howling. Even the little, I guess that's a Yorkie of some kind, a Yorkie mix on the top right corner. You can
back.
Mouth closed. And then the last one, which is very common when people try to pet some of these dogs that are in this state, the whale eyes, right? The big white part of the eye right there. So this doesn't look like, I mean, to most pet parents, it doesn't look like there's a lot of stress here, but there are some stress signals that you want to, even the yawn, they're very subtle, but you just want to make note, okay, my dog's not quite that comfortable. All right. Here's a video of a dog that I was working with last year around this time. This is Nero. And if you look at, this is in Sunset Beach. So they're getting ready for 4th of July. And you can see the body language on him in our walk. So you've got the ears over there and you've got the nose going. See, it's twitching, definitely processing information. But look at the lower back. You see that little hop, see his tail, and even his stance, right? He's very hesitant about going in that direction. So to most people that aren't trained to look at body language, this looks like a little happy guy. But what I saw was a lot of stress signals. And once I identified, okay, he's fearful about something over here, or this is the trigger, I was able to actually identify some of the triggers and work through several different triggers. And just in a short amount of time, I would say 3 to 4 months of listening to his stress signals, we were able to change the way this dog operated in Sunset Beach, which is a very, very busy community during the 4th of July. And now a year later, this little guy is in our regular manners class and he can do tricks and his walk is a lot different. I wish I had an after video, but I don't have one, but he's doing really good. All right. Comments? Good?
Good.
All right. All right. So what does stress do to your dog?
A lot.
What doesn't it do?
Right, exactly. I mean, you can really think about the way that stress makes you feel. It's pretty much the same. The stress hormones and the way that the body responds to stress is going to be similar across the board for all species. But you're going to have, and we'll talk about this in the next few slides in more detail, changes to the body and emotional state, behavioral states. We talked about a little bit the physiological change or the physical signs like the drooling, potential accidents, digestive issues, vomiting, diarrhea, those kinds of things. And then all kind of leading toward aggression if your dog stays in a chronic state of stress. Those things kind of build over time and your dog ends up in a state where they're trying to manage and are not set up for success.
So let's go to the physiology of fear.
All right, so fear is a psychological response, and this is where Yo had said I like to nerd out, so we're going to get into some of the science of it. But fear is a psychological response to danger or a threat that leads to a physiological reaction by the body. So we're talking about an emotional response that leads to a physical reaction. So this is your fight or flight response, and it is not necessarily a bad thing. So when is fear good? Well, fear is good when it helps us to survive. If you think about prey animals in needing to have a strong fear response in order to evade a predator, that's when that's a good thing to help you survive. Having a healthy fear in certain situations of knowing what the outcome could be so that you don't engage in a particular behavior, knowing the outcome could be bad, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But fear is bad when it becomes problematic. Like when a reaction is out of proportion to the actual threat or the actual situation. It can lead to bigger issues like we just talked about, anxiety, and even aggression. And then when you have repeated exposure, this is where you're going to start to develop more of a conditioned response, and over time those responses become stronger, and potentially more triggers develop. The dog becomes more sensitive to sound, maybe any kinds of sounds, any kind of quick movements, things like that can send them into that kind of out of proportion fear response because they're kind of kept in that chronic state. And then the development of superstitious behavior. So superstitious behavior, when we're talking about animal training, isn't like, walking under a ladder or black cat crossing your path. That's not what we talk about. It's when you inadvertently reinforce behavior that you didn't mean to, or you didn't realize that you did, and it kind of changes the behavior that the animal is doing. So I don't necessarily have a great example, but like, let's say I ask my dog to put its paws up on the wall, and she spins in a circle first and then gets rewarded for the paws on the wall. Well, she may think that we need to add that walk in a circle portion first before we put our paws up on the wall. So you can inadvertently train something. It might not necessarily be a bad thing to train. You could capture something that ends up being kind of fun, but you can also do things negatively. And Yo actually mentioned it earlier when she was talking about a loud noise happening and the dog sees children right there, and then the association now becomes negative towards the children. That's kind of what we're talking about here. I had a client where the dog was fine with the kids next door. They played at the fence, and then all of a sudden the dog started barking at the kids next door. And so we had to kind of take a deep dive. Well, what was going on at the time? Well, nothing was going on at the time. Nothing happened. I said, well, were there any odds on movements? Did the kids do something strange? Did they have a new toy? Were there any sounds that could have bothered the dog? Well, it turns out that the next door neighbor had a motorcycle, and it's very loud when it starts up. And it was more than likely something along those lines. And so then we kind of had to then go through some of the processes that we're going to talk about today in preparing your dog and working with counter conditioning. So there's another slide to go along with this, but as you can see, it can develop and create many issues. Now, when it comes to what it actually does to the body specifically, when there's a threat or a trigger and something startles you, your dog, whatever, the brain then alerts the nervous system to kind of kick the body into response. And this is going to be that fight or flight response that happens very quickly. Stress hormones are released very quickly or flooded into the body at a fast rate, mainly cortisol and adrenaline, which I'm sure you've heard of before. This will then increase blood pressure, heart rate, respiration rate increases. The blood begins to flow away from the heart into the limbs so that you're prepared to throw a punch or take off running, whichever you need to do. And then part of the brain starts to shut down. So the cerebral cortex that's responsible for reasoning and judgment, that turns off. And so we are no longer able to reason and make good decisions. And so we may not be able to rationalize whether the threat is real or not. But our body is kind of taking over, and we're not necessarily in control of then how we're going to respond.
Yeah, you see that a lot of times when dogs are feeling like they're not being listened to, they're feeling cornered or threatened, whether you're trying to put a harness on a dog or you're trying to leash them. And they're like, you're not listening. And now I have no, like, there's not a lot of logic that goes into sometimes these overreactive
Right.
responses. So it's just like they have no other choice.
And
So,
that's I think a very important aspect of behavior that we trying to get owners to understand, because
yeah.
for them they can rationalize through the thought process, but not in the way that their dog can, and trying to link those things for them and just get some understanding and some empathy for the dog in the situation is a challenge that I think we as trainers have.
Yes, for sure.
But then once that stress is in the body, those hormones specifically are in the body, they can dissipate quickly, but sometimes they linger longer. So now your body has those hormones that create that stress response in the body that are staying there longer than it needs to. So you're feeling the effects of that stress longer and beyond the actual threat being there. And then chronic stress and prolonged exposure to these hormones disrupt the body's natural processes, keeping that body in that mild state of stress and creating health problems and behavior changes that we were talking about earlier.
And that leads us right into trigger stacking, right? So,
yes. So trigger stacking. This refers to a scenario in which a dog experiences several stressful events or situations in a short time span. So kind of what I thought about in terms of 4th of July is that imagine that maybe you're hosting, but maybe you're attending a 4th of July celebration. Think about what situations might be uncomfortable for your dog. Have they been exposed to some of these scenarios? So lots of activity, children running around. I've got these flags waving everywhere. Maybe they've got sprinklers turned on. Your dog doesn't like water. So now we're making the dog uncomfortable by being around things that they aren't normally around, or they are already uncomfortable with. The sounds of cooking and the smells of cooking and food. Maybe your dog has some anxiety about being around food that they can't have access to. Maybe they're hungry already, and then not having access to that food is stressful for them. And then, of course, we end the evening with fireworks. We just built this dog's anxiety and stress up over this amount of time, and then everything just is going very wrong for them. That response, that fear response, startle response is going to, of course, be an overreaction simply because we put so much on their plate at that point.
And when we say short amount of time, when we say consecutive events in a short amount of time, we're talking about sometimes 2 or 3 days. So if you just recently went to the groomer and your dog hates the groomer, and then again you're planning a party and your dog is frustrated because they can't get to the hot dogs and hamburgers, so that's another stressor. So you're seeing stress signal, and then you're seeing the stress signals again, and then maybe your dog sees another dog that he doesn't like very much across the street later that evening for a walk. And now you see this overreactive bark and lunge, and you're like coming back in the house going, I don't know what is wrong with Rover. You totally lost his crap, and then he sees a squirrel the next day. So it doesn't have to be all in 5 hours. It can be spread over 2, 3, 4 days. The idea or the understanding is that the dog has not had enough time to recuperate. And so now the next set of trigger responses to a trigger are just blown up.
Mm-hmm.
We do this with humans, like everything that can happen to us. By the time I get home, I'm like, my husband says one thing and I'm like,
nope.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're going to go into how to desensitize the dogs to sounds and stuff, but just something to know about when your dog is at this state where they've just had a horrible day. Let's just call it a bad day. What it takes for them to recovery. So recovery works really easy with dogs. I find that you get them in a safe space, sleep, licking, chewing seem to do the trick. Usually, not every dog, because sometimes it escalates, but typically getting them to chew, lick, or sleep is going to help to get them more below baseline, get them more recovering faster. So I'm just going to put that in there. All right, let's go on to how do we prepare? So we need to definitely prepare for the holiday. That is why we popped this event before the 4th of July. And to be honest, it's still not enough time. I would have liked to have started 2 or 3 months before 4th of July to really do the magic of what training can do. However, it doesn't hurt to start right now and see how far you can get and then find a solution to, okay, we're not going to get all the way where we need to get to by the time 4th of July happens. So be prepared to be able to cancel or change your plans. So prevention and emergency. One thing I'd love for you guys to do and understand is like your dog may bolt the moment that there's fireworks going off, loud noises, crowds, whatever it is, they are trying to get out of what the environment that they're in. And for some dogs, that means jumping the fence. For some dogs, that means, using their paws and scratching at anything that resembles the doorknob, just like da 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 da. And maybe they've gotten out once before, and that means that they're going to go back to that spot. But maybe they've never gone out that door before, but they've seen you go out there. So bottom line, they're going to try to get out of that environment. That's what they have to do.
Yeah.
So knowing that, walk the perimeter of your backyard or wherever your dog is going to be. Make sure all of your windows are closed, not just screens. These dogs will go right through a screen door. They will also open doors. They'll go through a second story window. They will jump out to get to a safe space. We've seen it happen. So a couple things you could do right away is make sure let me just go into the next slide. Secure your home, walk the fence line, check all of your locks, close all the windows, set up extra gates to prevent your dog from getting through the front door. So if you're having a party or event, like if you have they're coming through the back door, just use one of those carabiners and lock that door in place. Get people to have to like double open or double close to prevent your dog from getting out just in the event of something happens at the moment that door opens. Being here in our new facility, I am like constantly like, what do we got to do? What are we going to do? We got to prevent this from ever happening. I am right on a busy street. If the dog goes running out this door, they're most likely going to get hit. So knowing that I am 1 block from the beach. And so 4th of July is going to be a crazy time for the dogs here. So we are already putting things in place, getting extra gates. We built an entire extra area that is all cemented just for the dogs not to be able to have to go through a couple doors just to get out. Balconies, screens, we talked about all of that. Anything else you want to add, just jump in.
Okay.
All right. Microchips and collars. So a pet microchip is just an electronic chip that is usually implanted under the pet's skin. Most of the time, I'd say half the time, the puppies that I have end up having already been microchipped. I'll ask for the microchip number. We put it into the system. Did you do that at your facility? Have it all put in the system just in case?
Yeah, if a dog had a microchip, the owners were able to. We had a system set up so that we could track that that information, each individual dog's microchip.
Okay. So getting your pup microchipped and then making sure that you actually update it in the system, that's really important to do. Usually if you've gotten your dog from a breeder, they will have chipped those puppies, and usually it's all the litter has been got the breeder's information in it. And years later, like 5, 6, 7, 8, your dog could be 10 years old, they'll still have that microchip in them. So definitely go get that all dialed in. Get a collar with tags on it. If your dog wears a harness, just put the tags on your harness. If you can put a collar on your dog, if your dog does better without the, ching, all the stuff like, hanging from their neck. You could get tape and just tape it on a collar. You can get a GPS tracker, such as the Apple, what are they called?
Yeah, the tags.
Tags.
I have one on my keys, and now I can't think of what it's called.
The tags. There's lots of different types of GPS trackers, from the whistle, which I've tried. I wasn't a big fan of the whistle. I'm just going to say that. There's the F1. There's, Amazon's got a whole bunch. Do your research and find out, because different size dogs will have different types of trackers that they recommend, or GPS trackers. But if you've got an iPhone, the Apple tracker is probably one of the cheapest ways to go, with less than 20 something bucks for that, those Apple AirTags, and you can put it right on for their AirTags, put it right on their collar. But that, at least try it out. Try all that stuff way before 4th of July, guys. And then ask around AirTag. Thank you, Casey. I was like, what is that thing?
Close.
All right. Next on here, besides your microchip and collar, is get some updated photos. You need a full body shot, front, left, right, rear. You need to be able to describe your dog, the little 2-inch white marking on the back of their tail. Because if you've got a dog that is very common, I see it all the time. I'm looking, Lost and Found, and they're like, it's a golden retriever. I'm like, oh,
that's
God,
what I was going to say. Golden white.
Or husky. Actually, if I'm going to be honest, it's usually a husky or a shepherd. So, and I'll go husky, and I'm like, okay, I look, and I'm like, that looks like the same dog that she's looking for. Oh, but that one has a white tail. Oh, that one has this. You've got to be able to identify all those markings and take as many pictures. Don't show a puppy picture when your dog's like 7 years old. That is not going to get you your dog back. And I have Corey going to talk a little bit about how to go about getting your dog back if they do end up getting lost. But I just want to say, take a whole bunch of pictures, their face, their tail, identifying markings, and have them stored and ready to go. Have them in your phone, because when it's time to, if you end up having a dog that has gotten away, you're going to want to post that stuff immediately. All right. So what are the chances, Corey, of actually finding a lost dog?
Well, according to a survey done by the ASPCA in 2012, it's pretty good. 93% of lost dogs were eventually recovered. Within the first 12 hours of your dog going missing, you have a 90% likelihood of finding your dog. 49% of dog parents found their canine friend just by searching in their neighborhood. More than likely, if the sooner you realize that your dog is missing and the sooner you get outside looking for your dog, they will not have had a chance to get very far. And hopefully, like what I have experienced in the past, my dogs are very friendly with their neighbors. Neighbors give out treats. They just go to the neighbor's house because they know they're going to get treats. That could be a scenario where they end up with a neighbor or a familiar place in the neighborhood that they find their way to naturally. 16% of lost dogs managed to find their own way back home. 15% of dog parents found their dogs thanks to a microchip or ID tag. So while that number may seem very low, I mean, if you're one of those 15%, you're always going to have a microchip or some kind of tag on your dog to ensure that they make their way back. 6% of dogs found their dogs at animal shelters. A lost dog could, though, potentially survive for months or even years on their own. So, don't give up looking.
I don't know. We have sometimes, every once in a while, we'll have, like in Huntington Beach, a dog, 1 or 2 dogs that have been on the street for 2 or 3 weeks. People are citing, hey. Mm-hmm. But it's not very common here because it's really a busy city. If your dog does go missing and you're unaware of it because you're at a festivity or someone else was watching your dog, it could be hours. And they're most likely, especially with all of the events going on all night, they may not appear. Like, you may not know for a few hours, whether it's that night or even the next morning. So it's important to know, like, get out there as soon as possible. I also think the survey is in 2012. So now, like, social media is a lot different. The neighborhoods are a lot different. So
Yeah.
I imagine if someone else had done some stats that are more recent, we'd have some different kind of numbers.
Oh, for sure. Social media has got to be, and especially in this case, I mean, it's great for a lot of reasons, but in this case, I mean, the ability to reach the mass amounts of people with your information within seconds is so valuable.
Yeah. So if you do have a dog that you know is your dog or a family's dog that is lost, here's some things that you can do right away. The having flyers already done sounds like crazy, but like when I see a flyer, I immediately go and look for go, have I seen that dog or that, there was a bird that had a flyer in our neighborhood. I was constantly looking for the bird. So as old school as it is, it does really work, especially
Yeah.
if you got a dog that's not very athletic, they're not going to get as far unless they've been picked up. So they might be very much in the neighborhood or in that area. Definitely contact the local shelters, but immediately post on all of your social media apps. The problem with social media right now for me, Corey, is there's like so many different pages, right? So different pages like Nextdoor, there's Facebook, there's um, the neighborhood one where you do it right in your neighborhood on Facebook. So figure out all of your different posts and where you can post. Also, posting in your own social media in one way or another and sharing all of that information can be very helpful. If you find a dog, now I've found several dogs that have come wandering into my area. Contact your local shelter, take some pictures, upload those pictures onto the social media platforms like Nextdoor, Facebook group, Lost and Found. If you can keep that dog, so if you can keep the dog in a safe place until you find the family, it would be the best for the dog. And if you can, it'll give you some time and some grace to get that dog, found. And the pet parents will appreciate that. And I hate just sending a dog to a shelter. Like I know that it's the thing to do, but it just like if you can keep that dog for a little bit, maybe the pet parent's just around the corner. Definitely, if you can get that dog to the vet, get him scanned. What else do you suggest, Corey?
I know, like you said, taking him to a shelter. I've seen a lot of neighborhood posts where someone will post like, "I am going to hang on to this dog for X amount of
Yeah.
time, and then I am going to take this dog to and name the place."
Oh,
So
that's
if you
good.
can give that kind of information, so that like we said with social media and being able to reach so many different people, the chances are good that in your local area, someone is going to know someone who's going to know someone that knows that person's missing their dog, and they can say, "Hey, I think they might have taken this dog to this facility." So if you're the one with the lost dog, it's not even just contacting your local shelter, but actually go to some of these places so that you can get a visual on some of these dogs, because you're the one that knows what your dog looks like the best. And like we talked about before, just trying to describe them is not as effective.
That's a good point. The shelters are going to be on overload. They're
Yeah.
already talking about staffing. Like we're staffing our big 4th of July sleepover. Shelters are staffing it, knowing that they're going to have a big intake of dogs and where they're going to go and where they're going to be. So it's really important to go down to your local shelters because the paperwork, they do have that dog. Do they have that dog? Did that dog come in? Like that just gets to be. I've seen some
Well,
messes
yeah.
over there.
And the workers are already stressed, and
Yeah,
they're dealing with what's directly in front of them and not necessarily what's going on the phone. They're trying to prioritize the issues that are in front of them. So make yourself a
yeah,
priority and go down there and take a
that's true.
look.
Very good point. All right, let's go into something a little bit more positive.
Yes.
So let's talk about creating a safe space. So one of the other ways that you can prepare, and you could do this immediately, like right after you get done watching this, is picking a safe space that your dog can go and retreat to. No, whether you're going out or the party's happening in your backyard, like literally in your city, you'll want to have a place that your dog can go to, and you start preparing right now. You've got little over 3 weeks. I don't even know what the date is. Maybe less than 3 weeks. I don't know. Help me out, Corey.
Yeah, I can pull up the calendar. I think we're pretty good though. If you have most of this week, next week, yeah, you've got pretty much 4 weeks, 3.5 at
All right.
least.
Okay. So you've got 3 to 4 weeks to prepare on creating a safe space. And it doesn't happen overnight, but here are some tips to help you get there. First, choose a location in which your dog can go to retreat that is safe. You want to find a place that's farthest away from where the stuff is happening. So if you're having a party in your backyard, you're going to use the front of your house. You want to find a place that's free from windows or the window that's going to be showing where the fireworks are, because those windows are going to rattle,
Yeah.
right? So places like a large bathroom, a walk-in closet, a laundry room, just basically a cave. Anywhere where your dog's got like less windows and lots of things that are going to protect that sensitive hearing and smell and sight. If you do have an open living room with tables and stuff like that, you'll have to find some place where you can go in the corner where your dog can feel safe, again, away from the windows. Bedrooms work really well. Guest bedrooms. Remember, this is just a short amount of time. You're just preparing them right now. They might be in there for that specific night, but you keep working on it all the way through. The place is a place that's going to be very quiet, away from open windows. You're going to want to have be able to close any curtains that are in there, mask any noise. So if you don't have a loud TV or speaker system, then you're going to want to put that kind of stuff in there to mask the noise that's coming from outside. I like to get cameras on the dog. So I like to monitor. So buying a $20, $30 camera, a little Google camera or whatever you like, so that you can, but test that stuff all now. And then ability for your dog to hide. So whether they're using a crate or a table with a blanket over it. I bought, for our facility, we have soundproof blankets. They're basically curtains that you normally hang, in those soundproofing music rooms, but we use those to put all over the crates. And we're going to be using those for our windows to be able to block the sight and the sound from coming through the windows as much as possible. Make it positive. So in order for your dog to love to go there, you're going to want to start right now creating a positive experience. Here at Canine Learning Academy, the dogs that do go into crates will say something like, go to your room. And they happily go in there. But that doesn't happen in just one training session. What we do is, by starting weeks before, we do all of their feedings, their chews, any games. We pull the crate away from the space and we play games with the crate. We teach dogs to open the door to their crate door because it gives them some repetitions around the crate, and it doesn't identify as just the one place they go to when it's nap time. It's about using the crate as a positive experience all throughout this time. But for us, because we use crates quite a bit, we always keep it as positive as possible. When you're doing the training for the very first time, make sure that if you're using a crate or a confined area, that the space is open and the dog can come in and out. And then bring items that your puppy loves into that confined area. So here's a short video of kind of what that might look like. So we have here, this is a crate. She's putting a blanket. It's covered on all three sides right now. There's a cozy bed. And then it's tucked in underneath a dark black table. Blankets, toys. Here's another option. So here is a bathroom. Putting in a dog bed. She's moving the dog as far away from the door as possible. Another way to block out sound is using, or another room that you could use is a closet. So this is a walk-in closet. And what Diane did with Brutus is she worked all three spots because she wasn't quite sure how it was going to go. And then he's got his crate over here in her bedroom. So he's got 4 spots that he can confine to, that she can work through. playing games to help make it a positive experience. You can see the doors open and he's in there. She's hiding some treats, blocking the sight. You can see there's a lot of light coming in through there because there is a window screen door that faces the, I think it's the west side, where the fireworks are going to be. So she's taking the time to make sure that he's comfortable in that spot. Playing TV, music, jazz, or classical music, or putting on a movie, any kind of white noise to help block out the sound of the fireworks. So here she's got dog TV. Here we'll be playing movies all night long and just different kinds of music. She's closing. She's got 2 curtain panels that she's closing to just make it extra dark. If you do have doors with little open spots like tile floor, you can roll up towels or bath mats and place them underneath there to block out some more of the sound. You can also do this on your windows. Then have some positive experiences in that confined area several times a day, just to make sure your dog doesn't just think they're going in there being left alone. Instead, they're having a really good, fun time. Cute video, huh?
Yes, I love how happy he is.
All right, finally, let's get into the training. So we're doing okay on time. We're going to try to wrap this up in 15 minutes or less. So let's just blow through it, okay?
Yeah.
All right, desensitizing training. So basically you want to start early. Use positive techniques to help guide and help change your dog's mind about how they feel about certain noises or party events. So whatever your experience is going to be for the 4th of July, whether it's the sight or you going away or the smell or the sound, figure out what that is and then prepare your training. For desensitizing sound training, there's 2 big steps. The first step is making sure that the dogs are not sensitive to the beginning stages of that trigger. So we're going to use fireworks because that's what we're at for 4th of July. So step 1 is that you play the sound at a very low volume where your dog hears it, but they go, well, that's not so bad. And then the next step, which we're going to talk about, is changing the way they feel about it. Instead of just accepting it because it's not so bad, what if they heard fireworks and they started smiling? Or like, oh my gosh, and they associated fireworks sounds, boom, to treats or playing or running around. So that's what we're going to just kind of go over really quickly on how to do that. And that's what we do with young puppies. We do this with all dogs, but specifically this masterclass is about young puppies. So step 1, help your dog reduce distress by playing the sound at a very low volume. You're going to take YouTube, because that's where a lot of fireworks are. Take go onto YouTube and type out firework sounds. Do this in another room so you've got the right channel, okay? And you don't play it really loud on your phone. Then come back into the room while your puppy is just kind of hanging out. Make sure that they're able to move around in their space and play the sound at a very low volume. Watch your puppy's body language and you'll see whether they're staying like you're playing it too loud. It should be very, very subtle where maybe one of their ears kind of twitches, and see that they're okay with the sound. They're kind of like, I hear something, but it's not a big deal. You're not doing anything at this point. All you're doing is playing the sound. Play that for about, we say like a couple minutes, watching their body language. And about every 2 minutes, you can turn the volume up a little bit, increasing it in tiny, tiny increments. And I mean tiny. You're not wanting to trigger the dog. Now, once you get to a pretty good volume of your dog going, I don't know, whatever, that's, white noise to me now. The next step, so here, let me just play this next video. So here we have Diane. We're playing it on phone is that we play it into a louder volume. So we use the TV, which can go a little bit louder, or we use one of these speaker boxes. So you see Bandit here, he hears the sound. There's a lip lick there. There's a couple lip licks. He's wondering where the sound is, or he's looking at me going, what are we doing? It could be either one. And then every couple of minutes, we turn the volume up a little bit. So here he's got the volume going up just a little bit. See the nose twitch, eyes, the lip lick again. Very subtle signs. So this is all part of step 1, is getting your dog acclimated to a certain level of the sound of fireworks. Now, I recommend doing this 2, 3, like every other day. Right now, if you've got 3.5 weeks, so you're doing at least like every other day, I would say 5 minutes or so playing the sound. So here I have an activity for you to do is do 3 3-minute sessions this week, 4 5-minute sessions next week. And by the 3rd week, you can play 8 to 10-minute sessions, because the fireworks shows are typically about 15 minutes. At least they are here. Some might be even longer. The next is step 2, is to change the way they feel about the sound. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to help them build a positive association. The sound of fireworks means fun. Sound first, and then the fun happens. Here we go. Now, here's the problem. If you have some fun with your dog and you're having a great time and you're playing, and then all of a sudden they hear the sound, you could destroy that fun time with your dog. So it's important you do it in this order. Sound, then the fun happens. All right. It's important to keep control of the volume to a level where your dog still is comfortable. Remember that step 1 is keeping them comfortable, not going over, not avoiding, not leaving the room. If you see them leave the room, the volume's way too loud. They get to move around. They get to leave if they want to. So what you're going to do is the sound of fireworks means party. So let's play. Let's do a trick and do about 15 seconds of firework noise with that party time. Once the noise stops, the party stops. So noise equals fun. 15 seconds, and it can be super just games. It could be running around. It could grab toys. You could throw out some food. You could do some tricks. You just could be silly. Here's what that might look like. So this is Bentley. We're doing tug toy. Now, fireworks playing, we got to volume a little over 100 last year with most of the dogs playing and care less about the sound of fireworks. So does it look like it, Corey? Does it look like any of these dogs are stressed about the noise?
I don't see any stress signs.
Okay. If it's stress signs, it's not because of the fireworks. So there's some tricks going on. All right. So I think we've made our point. Sound equals fun.
Yeah, the dog in the back just looks like he wants to join in.
Yeah, Brutus is trying to get out. Brutus and Bandit are brothers. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I didn't. How cool.
Yeah. All right. Other ways that you can help with loud noises. There's a couple more games. I'm just going to quickly say them. Is use louder interactive feeders over the next 3.5 weeks. So if you are a common to interactive feeders, instead of putting a Kong wobbler on carpet, try using your floors, like your tiled floors, your wood floor, because they make louder noises. Also, when you're watching the fireworks, make sure you're giving them maybe something yummy to chew on. It's not watching. If you're listening to fireworks and you're implementing that, you could definitely give them something to chew on. Another loud thing that you can do that helps prepare for loud noises is just rearranging the pots and pans. just going in, pulling everything out of your kitchen cabinet and just start rearranging because there's lots of noises going on. And it's something that it's in where they feel safe. Let them leave if they want to, but at least just get them acclimated to the sounds of that thing. Another game that we play that I don't have time to kind of go into right now is called Boom Click Treat. But this is where we'll like pop a little bubble that we get from Amazon, those little bubble things. And we'll go boom, and then we'll go click treat, and we'll go boom and treat. So they hear the sound, but then we offer a food right away. We'll put the sound away from the dog. We normally put it behind our back to pop it, and then we offer a treat. And the goal is that the dog is like, I like this game. Boom, click, treat. Yes, I like that. Last game that we have is called What Was That? So when you do make a loud noise, we typically will go, what was that? And we offer a reinforcement of some kind. We start that with puppies very young, and we start that in the home with like dropping a little magazine, and we gradually work in louder noises. So here's some of the popular interactive feeders. And I turned the volume off on this one because it was so loud. But just what interactive feeders with plastic, with wood floor can actually sound like, it was insanely loud. So I had to mute the volume. All right. So you can see how these things can all start to get very loud if you made a point over the next 3.5 weeks to just pull out everything that you can. All right, so we're going into the last stretch, the day of the 4th of July. Here's some things you need to know. Know where a fireworks show is in your city. Know what the fireworks show is in another city. Exercise your dog early. Secure your dog. Make sure that you go through preparing, like we've mentioned before. Prepare enrichment way before the day of 4th of July. We're going to have some cute recipes that Corey's going to help me prepare, but we're going to have some great recipes for you to bring in so that your dog can be part of the 4th of July festivities, whether you're staying home or you're going somewhere. If you are going somewhere, please do not take your young puppy. You have nothing to gain and you have a lot to lose if things go bad. So hire a sitter. If you're a part of our student community, we do have a holiday weekend sleepover. It's July 3rd through the 7th. You can contact me to get more information. But we are having a whole 4 days of festivities, mainly keeping the puppies safe. Here's an example of a schedule. So you might get up early in the morning and take your dog to go potty and do some training, mental enrichment, stimulation, mind, get their mental keep them mentally stimulated and just get them drained mentally. Take them on a long safari walk. They're probably already feeling the stress by early in the morning. And then some good exercise. If you can get them to play with a friend or run after a ball, get some fetch going. Midday, take them out again. Another fun adventure. If you've got a swimming pool or if you've got a dog that they can play with, that's a great opportunity to get your dog into the water or playing with a pal. Around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, if you can, get your dog out. So this is your longer walk when the light is still out. There's no fireworks yet. Get them out to get most of their longest walk out before it gets dark. I would take them on a little safari if you can. And then before the lights go out, we do this around 7 o'clock. The dogs are all going to go potty. And then we're going to do a search where they get to search for something. So again, mental stimulation. And then they spend pretty much when those lights go out, they're chewing, licking, TV's on super loud, and we're in for the night. So that's pretty much how it's going to go over here somewhat. Any changes to that for you, Corey?
No, I mean, starting, like you said, starting early and then keeping them active throughout the day. They'll be tired and in a good way, not totally exhausted in a stressed way, but in a good way, in a fulfilled way. It'll make it a lot easier.
All right. Providing comfort. Go for it, Corey.
So you may get some bad advice from, Uncle Joe or whoever, Facebook. You don't have to follow that bad advice. One of those things that we hear as trainers is that don't pet your dog when it's upset, when it's when it's experiencing fear or stress. Don't pet them, don't comfort them, because then you're telling your dog it's okay to be that way. But it's really the opposite. Fear is an emotion. It's not a behavior. Those emotions cannot be reinforced. So showing that your dog that you can help them is actually better. So don't follow that bad advice. Give your dog the comfort that they're seeking. If that means that they want to sit with you on the couch or climb into bed with you, maybe you make that exception this time around or something along those lines.
Oh, that's a good point.
And it is okay for you to decline attending holiday celebrations, to stay home with your dog and make sure that they're comfortable and safe. If something you would regret forever if something happened because you didn't prepare or you weren't home and something went wrong, it's okay to say no thank you.
Yeah. All right, last one is, when is it time to get some support? So I mean, we're not going to give you any medical advice, so number one. Number two, it's up to you. Like, if you did not get your dog desensitized to the sound of fireworks and now it's 2 days later, you may need to get some medical support. But some of the common questions that we would ask is, how often is your puppy or your dog of whatever age challenged? How long does it last? How intense is it? Are you able to control your environment? If you can't, can you leave? Can you take your dog somewhere else? Is your dog suffering? Are they drooling? Like, that is no state to be, even if it's for just one night, because the reality is it's not just one night here. At least in Huntington, it's going to happen. Fireworks are going to start. They're starting now, but they're going to be intense for at least 10 days. So if you feel like you missed the training, your dog is not going to go well, there's nothing wrong with reaching out to your vet and going, hey, I need some help. They will most likely, most of the vets are going to help you out. At least if you don't have a vet that will help you out, contact me. We've got a really good partnership with a local vet here. All right. Anything you want to add?
Your vet is likely going to ask if you've done any kind of training to help your dog through this. So you can definitely be prepared to, with all of the information and the science that we've given you today, be prepared to answer those questions. Like, yes, I've done the counter conditioning. Yes, I've tried behavior modification. That my dog is not recovering after not recovering well after we do these things. So you can be prepared already with that information if you've given your best effort, and it will make that conversation with your vet go a little bit easier as well.
Yeah. All right. We don't have a lot of time to answer some questions live. However, go ahead and pop your questions into wherever you're watching this live feed, and we will definitely go through and answer them a little bit later. So questions specifically, again, this masterclass is about young puppies and 4th of July, making sure that they have a positive experience to 4th of July. But let's say you have a specific scenario where you're like, hey, what would you do in the event, that you're having a party and I have this and I've got this young puppy? Those are things that planning something, especially this 3.5 weeks before the event, is something that could definitely help you with. So how we can help is to give you a plan, help you action it, and then get you to commit to it. In order for us to do that, you're going to need to contact us. So here is our business cell phone number where you can call and either leave a message, set up a text, and basically from here, we can have a conversation about your personal scenario of what's going on with your puppy if you'd like. All right, so that is the end of our masterclass. Where is my screen? I've got like 5 screens going. Okay. All right, I'm going to leave that one up there. So if you guys enjoyed it, please, if you love masterclasses, I love masterclasses, but if you love them as much as we do, then type in the comments how much you enjoyed us. Give us some support. And Corey, thank you for spending feels like whole afternoon with me. putting this together. I think
Absolutely.
it is really important. It's important to get the information out there. I love that it's free. I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah. I love that you can share it. It's recorded. I love that the information's out there for the people that really need to hear it. We've got them early enough, so I feel like it's going to make a big impact. So I appreciate you taking the time to meet me here so that we can do this together.
Always.
All right, guys. Well, that was it. That was 2024 Masterclass of Fear Free Fourth for Puppies, creating a positive association this 4th of July. And we talked a little bit about from Huntington Beach all the way from where Corey is, which is where, Corey?
Toledo, Ohio.
So if you got any questions, just drop it in the comments. I'm going to come back around a little bit later. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a safe 4th of July. And I hope that this masterclass leaves an impression with you. Tag your friends or copy the link and send it over to your friends. But thank you very much.
Bye.